What do you all say? We go ahead and have ourselves a show. Let's go ahead. Actually, let me make sure I didn't screw this part up again, shall we? Hopefully, I think I got it right this time. Hope I got it right this time. Let's go to info and settings. Pretty sure I made it public this time around after screwing it up every other time. Yeah, we're good to go. So, why don't we have ourselves a show? I know Nigel Murillo is already here. Good to see you, my friend. I'm going to get everybody a chance to get to the show before I get into the meat of the discussion that you can see over here. I've got a ton of books. I got a website pulled up. I'm going to explain what that means. I have a football for no real reason at all, other than I just like football. Um, you may be taken slightly aback by the title of today's video. Jolly May says, laughing my ass off. The title, though. Yeah, there is you've been with me long enough to know that there is absolutely a method to my madness. Hold on, I just heard a loud crash, and I think I hear a baby crying. Nope, I think we're okay. So we'll get, if you're tuning into this after the fact, we kind of warm up a little bit here at first. If you want to skip ahead a minute or two to give everyone a chance to get to the show live. I don't want to just start talking to myself here because most people that consume this content consume it live and don't watch it after the fact. So I want to give everyone a chance to get in here so I can explain why I gave this video the crazy title that it has. There is, like I said, a method to my madness. It's certainly, it's intended to be tongue-in-cheek and serious at the same time, but by no means is this discussion intended to tear people down or unnecessarily criticize folks or make you feel bad about yourself or call you names. All right, I'm going to define what I mean by the title. We titled it, Are You a Man, Bitch? And we're going to talk a little bit about why I am particularly qualified to have this discussion with all of you, which I think you may find that part of the discussion very interesting. Let's see. The Jolly Mage says, for show, that will get butts and seats, then comes the soapbox of knowledge. Young IGG says, what's going on, B? How was your day? Man, my day was fantastic. It was better than I deserved. Better than I deserved, man. Uh-oh. I'm hearing a baby get angry. He has been fussy all day. I mean, that's what babies do, right? I mean, he's technically not a baby, he's a toddler, but he's just been something else. So if you're here, let me know you're here because I can't see my live screen. I don't want to really start the show until I know the bulk of the people that are going to show up are here. Uh, just leave me a quick. I know a lot of people like to lurk. A lot of people don't like to necessarily talk in public settings. Don't worry, no one's going to throw anything at you. Just type hi or yo or whatever your particular preferred greeting is, just so I know you're here, and then I can get into the definition of man bitch. This is actually a term I used in the beginning part of going through some of the mental health stuff that I've been working on these last couple of months. And it was funny because some of the other people in the room were like, I've never heard somebody call a man a bitch before. I'm like, well, in fact, I reserve that word for men. I don't think I've ever called a woman that word. So what we're going to talk about tonight has nothing to do with gender or being offensive to a specific gender. It has everything to do with a losing philosophy, right? And one that if we don't want to be losers, we need to get rid of. Let's see. Jolly Mage says, still looking for the punctuation to change the meaning. Are you a man? Bitch. I thought about that. Do I put a comma after man? But no, it should have made it one word. It's, are you a man, bitch? Or as Kevin Hart says in the thumbnail, are you a Mitch? Right? And we're going to get into what I mean by that. And it's interesting because I have found that in the modern age, the modern era, there are a lot of people. And by the way, most people, let me be clear before I get into defining the terms here. Most people that I would label as a man bitch, it's not 100% their fault. Okay, it's not usually something people choose. Genetics can play a role, certainly, but that can be overridden to become a man instead of a man bitch in many cases. And by no means does this have anything to do with gender or sex, all right? I don't want anyone to take this out of context. Because, we live in a very, very hypersensitive society where everything can potentially become offensive, even when it's not intended to be. What the whole purpose of this talk tonight is to help people, men, women, doesn't matter, develop a winning mindset that helps you live a life that you enjoy and that you find meaning in. But if you have any of these traits, any of these habits of thinking that we're going to talk about tonight, it is going to prevent you from getting there. So everything is designed to help you, not to call you names, right? But my point that I was saying is I've run into men and women who have these traits, and I'd say probably, it's hard to put a number on, 8 out of 10 people, it's not like they're choosing to be this way. It's a lot of life circumstances have led them to these faulty ways of thinking that we're going to go on the attack with tonight. All right, so Jimmy Reagan says, thumbs up. Demon X Realm says, winning is 90% mental. Cool, man. Cool. All right, so like I said, if you're here, leave me a comment. Just say hi. It's all you got to say. If you want to go back to lurking, that's fine. It's very interesting. I'm a very... I've been on the internet a long time. I've been on the internet since before it was called the internet. And it's usually, except for my website that was a little bit different, usually about 10% of the people are the ones of any community are the ones that engage in the actual conversation regarding the community. Everyone else just kind of lurks and listens and reads or whatever. And I've always found that to be an interesting trait, that it's not the other way around. Like 90% of the people are engaging and then kind of 10% of people sit back. I found that especially on Twitch, even more so than YouTube. People just, and I think it's because they have their phone, they're just watching it in the background, doing laundry or whatever. They're not trying to talk. Nigel Waves, what's up, dude? I noticed we got all dudes tonight. Where are the ladies at? Because I need the ladies to help me make some of these points. All right, let's see. What do we got? All right, we got and why is that playing sound? That shouldn't be playing sound. All right, so right now at this very moment, I can't get to the live control room, which is fine. I'm not worried about that. Let's get down here. All right, I'm just looking at the stream to make sure everything is healthy. Everything is indeed healthy. There's us hanging out, making things awesome. Nigel says hello. Let's go back to the Ranger Creed here. Let's see. So is it Rakisha? Am I saying your name right? Rakisha Razor says hello. Alyssa says here. Hey, Alyssa, good to see you. All right. I think the bulk of our people that are coming are here. So hopefully, if you're watching this after the fact, you skipped ahead to, however many minutes we are into this discussion. So let's define this kind of tongue-in-cheek term of what do I mean when I ask somebody, are you a man bitch? Okay. Again, it's not really gender related, but interestingly enough, I find that more men are like this in my life than women, right? As I say it kind of jokingly when I'm coaching folks, but it's actually the truth. When I coach groups, I say, I find that working with women 9.9 times out of 10 is always more enjoyable than working with men as a coach. And there's a lot of there's genetic reasons for that. And by genetics, I mean women, for example, are statistically more predisposed to be more curious, less, oh, I got this, right? And we call that, I don't really like the term for it because it sounds derogatory, but it's, there is a conscious incompetence with women. So an example of that playing out is if I took a woman, let's use my wife as an example. She wanted to learn how to play football because we were having a boy, right? She was like, the boy's going to play football with his dad. I need to understand how football works if you guys are... So she had a conscious incompetence with football, meaning she understood that she knew nothing about football. So I took her outside and I actually had her play every position and walked her through how the game works so that she can have an understanding. She had an unconscious competence. A conscious incompetence is actually a better way to say it, is there is a humility in not knowing. right? There's a humility in not knowing that she's like, I know nothing about football. Show me. With men, oftentimes, and again, this isn't always true, but with men, oftentimes, there's this ego that kicks in that's like, oh, I got this. Yeah, I know how to do this. And a lot of times, men have no idea what they're talking about. I have people a lot of times that I engage with on the internet, and they have no idea what they're talking about. They're just rambling about whatever thing they believe, and it's not supported by science or anything else, right? And it's just like, okay, and you kind of have to let them talk. Like, all right, I find that women do that less. And in fact, when I was coaching in the YouTube space, I found that women, 9 times out of 10, if they had a question, they would go watch all my videos first, because it's like, well, he probably already covered this. Let's watch. And I had a woman reach out to me one time. She was actually we became friends on the internet. She reached out to me and said, "Hey, I watched all your videos on this topic with YouTube, trying to, because she was a musician working to get her music off the ground. She led with, I watched all your videos, which to me is an immediate like red flag in a good way. Like, oh my God." She watched the video. She didn't come ask me a question that I've covered 17 times already. She's like, she led with, I watched all your videos, and then it was 3 paragraphs of an explanation of, you said this in this video, this is what I understood, and here's where I'm still having a challenge. If you have time, could you please help me out with this? So she told me that she already did her homework, 1. Then she said, here is what you said and what I understood and what I'm still missing the mark on. Can you please help me with this very specific area that I'm still struggling with? So she created an understanding for me of her problem that was very specific and very well articulated, to where I could immediately come in and say, here's exactly what your challenge is and here's how you need to address it. With most men, yo, bro, I'm trying to monetize Call of Duty videos. Can I do it? Very generalized question. Ridiculous question, because I've covered it at least 75 times in copyright videos, that the answer is always, it depends. He gave me no context of the videos he was creating, no context about, I watched all your videos and here's what I understood. Just, yo, bro, can you help me out? And I've literally had people, when I started my YouTube coaching program, they're like, no, bro, I got this. I'm going to be at like 1 million subscribers in a couple of months, so I'm good. And the dude had like 317 views, let alone, what? There's this ego that's, in my experience, I won't say it's scientific, just in my experience, it makes women much more pleasant to work with, because I can actually help you versus have to fight through your ego. I mean, I've had people tell me, they've come to me, ask me for help, and then I tell them what their problem is. Oh, no, that's wrong. And I'm thinking, so if you knew the answer to your problem, why are you asking me? Or better yet, if you know the answer you want to hear, because that's the real problem, then just tell yourself and don't waste my time, right? So I'm not saying that those behaviors make a guy a man bitch. I'm saying that there's just some tendencies there, right? And so I say all that to say, what we're going to talk about tonight when we define these terms, it's not all the person's fault. Some of it's just you're a dude, right? And so you have certain tendencies and you have certain social norms, especially if you grew up in America, and you have certain spoiled tendencies that all Americans, myself included, have, right? Remember, we're going to get to why I am particularly qualified to have this discussion here in a moment. Babito Chicon says, checking in, I'm a gladiator. Word. Noob5 says, hello Noob5. Jolly Mage says she took her ego out of the equation. Exactly. Muzaffar Moose says, learn something new today. So anyway, let's get into defining the terms. All right. And I'm going to define the terms first by showing you the opposite of what we would call, and another word, if you're offended by the term man bitch, is a simple-minded, egotistical, selfish, self-absorbed person who doesn't take responsibility, right? That's the simplest definition. But let's talk about what a man bitch is not to help define what it is. Let's read together the Ranger Creed. Now, this is a creed that soldiers who go on to become Army Rangers take, right? I had to take this creed in college. I was not an Army Ranger when I was in the Army, but in college, there's, the cadet version of a ranger team, right? So you have to learn all of these things. And so I had to be able to recite this. I had to know it, even though once I got to the real army, I need to be clear. When I got to the real army, I was not an army ranger. Okay, let's get that on the table right now, because the last thing I want is to give some image of myself that's not the reality. You know, if you had to give my military career a grade, I'd give it a C to maybe a C plus. Okay. So nothing particularly amazing about what I did, but I want to share this with you. And this is going to help you regardless of the title of the video, okay? Like I said, there's a method to my madness and why I share what I share and how I share it. Let's read together here. The Ranger Creed. Recognizing that I volunteered as a ranger, fully knowing the hazards of my chosen profession, I will always endeavor to uphold the prestige, honor, and high esprit de corps of the Rangers. Now let's stop there for a second. Recognizing that I volunteered, meaning I took matters into my own hands, I took responsibility, and I decided to give myself to something greater than myself. Fully knowing the hazards, knowing the risks of my chosen profession, I will always endeavor to uphold the prestige, meaning I will not make my brothers and sisters, in this case, Rangers are men, right? I will not make my brothers look bad. Okay? Next, acknowledging the fact that a ranger is a more elite soldier who arrives at the cutting edge of battle by land, sea, or air. I accept the fact that as a ranger, my country expects me to move further, faster, and fight harder than any other soldier, meaning I have taken an oath to be a cut above the average, to be a cut above just the normal standard. I know my country expects me, because if you go back even like to World War II, if you've seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, you're dealing with Rangers in that movie, right? There's a different swagger to these men, right? Or in this case, if we're not talking about the military, or women, right? Trust me, I have worked with women who could easily get through Ranger school, right? The physical parts of it, right? All right. Never shall I fail my comrades. I will always keep myself mentally alert, physically strong, and morally straight, and I will shoulder more than my share of the task, whatever it may be. 100% and then some. I will shoulder more than my share of the task, whatever it may be. Does that sound like a modern American man to you? Or do we spend all of our time bitching about the president and what he's not doing for us, and not realizing that government starts with self-governance? And before we open our mouths, and I don't care, pick a president. I'm not just talking about Trump. Pick whichever president you hate, right? And you spend all your time bitching about what's going on. What have you done to make your society, your community, or at least just your family better? What have you done? Because before you complain about what someone else is doing, I want to check your house. I want to check what you're doing to make the world a better place. Right? And when it surpasses that of just a regular person who gets up and pays his bills, then I'll be willing to listen to your bitch fest. I still won't, but I'd be way more willing to listen to it. Do most of the people you meet in your life strike you as a person who's going to shoulder more than their share of the task? Of any task? Or are they trying to get out of stuff? Have you ever called a group of your friends and said, hey, will you help me move to a new apartment or a new home? I guarantee you the ones that show up are your real friends. Right? Or did they pull the man bitch move? Oh, you know, my son has a recital at the Frog Pond. I can't be there, dude, when you need me. Right? That's what I'm talking about. Gallantly, I will show the world that I am specially selected, that I am a specially selected and well-trained soldier, right? Meaning when they look at me, they're going to know there's something different about me. My courtesy to superior officers, neatness of dress, and care of equipment shall set the example for others to follow. Do you do that? Anybody? Energetically, I will meet the enemies of my country. All right, so let's change the context there, because none of you are Rangers. At least I don't think anybody that's following me here is a Ranger. Right? Energetically, I will meet the enemies of my goals and the goals of my friends and my peers. Energetically, I will help the people around me overcome the challenges that we face together. I shall defeat them on the field of battle, for I am better trained and will fight with all of my might. Surrender is not a Ranger word. I will never leave a fallen comrade to fall into the hands of the enemy, and under no circumstances will I ever embarrass my country. Now take country out of the context. And I watch people on Twitter. You are embarrassing your family daily, not you who's listening. I watch people daily that are embarrassing. Just opening their mouths on Twitter. It's like, Jesus Christ. What have you done today to make the world a better place that gave you the right to bitch about all the stuff you're bitching about? Because last time I checked, you woke up this morning. Let's see, that was a win. You had all your arms and legs. Cool. You were breathing. You weren't in a hospital. You had enough food to eat. Probably had a job to go to that's paying some part of your life. You probably have a PlayStation somewhere. Last time I checked, you're doing pretty damn good. So what are you bitching about? Trump being an asshole? You knew that going in. You know? Or Obama not making good on his promises? Name a president that made good on all of his promises. Right? And I'm picking on politics because it's a very easy one to pick on because that's where people bitch the most, at least in my circle. That's where I hear people just nonstop whining. Like, what are you doing? Okay, you're pro-life. You hate abortion. Obama's president. What are you doing to help the socioeconomic problem that actually leads to abortion? Oh, nothing? You just want to bitch about it from your couch. Okay, cool. Man bitch behavior. Okay? I will never leave a fallen comrade to fall into the hands of the enemy. I'll never leave my friends behind. I'll never step on a customer just so I can make a profit. I'll go over and above for my customers to the point where they become entitled to more service than they deserve. That when they go get service somewhere else, they can't believe, like, oh my God, everywhere else sucks compared to this guy. And by the way, that's not all altruistic and because I'm a great man. It's because guess what? They'll keep buying things from me if I keep treating them well. Or consuming things, because I give away 90% of my stuff and sell 10, right? But they'll keep coming back. Readily I will display the intestinal fortitude, we talked about that last night, required to fight onto the Ranger objective and complete the mission, though I be the lone survivor. Rangers lead the way. Does that creed sound like you today? Because this is the exact opposite of a man bitch. A person who takes personal responsibility. They're going to, I mean, all the way down to I'm going to dress well. I'm going to look presentable when I step outside, such that when people notice me, I look squared away, right? I'm going to represent my family well. I'm going to represent my country well. I'm going to do more than I talk. I'm going to serve more than I ask for in return. And when something goes wrong in my life, I'm going to take personal responsibility for it and not blame other people. Friends, a man bitch is someone who can't take personal responsibility for their own stuff. You want to spend more time complaining about what everybody else is doing or not doing and not fix what you're doing wrong. And you want to blame everybody else for your problems. Right? Your parents weren't there for you. Yeah, neither were mine. Right? And the one caveat I have for this is that some of this is genetic. I realize, for example, that when I push people, I cannot push them as if they are me. They do not genetically have the emotional, mental resilience that I have. Okay? I get that. But it doesn't mean we go all the way on the other side of the spectrum. We want to blame everybody else for our problems. Which, by the way, doing that means you're going to lose, because when you start to take responsibility for your problems and say, you know what, this is somehow tied to something I could have known or done better, when you take that approach and you take ownership, you give yourself the power over the circumstance. Everyone that's blaming everybody else, you give them the power over you. I'm going to blame somebody. Let's say you didn't get a raise, right? I remember once upon a time I didn't get a promotion that I was overqualified for. And the funny thing is, the way God works, the person who ended up getting the job was way, even though I had more, my resume was off the charts in a different place, they were way better for the job. If they had given me the job, I would have shot myself, right? I'm only half joking about that. And so the idea here is I could have blamed everyone. They don't recognize my talent and how good I am and how hard I'm willing to work. No, maybe they recognize something about me, which was, if we give this guy the job, he's either going to shoot us or himself. So maybe not. But at the same time, I could have been better. getting rejected is an opportunity to say, what could I have done better in that case? Like if they were willing to hire someone who has way less skills than I did at the time, what does that say about me? What areas of my life do I need to work on? Or I could play the bitch role, which is just blame all. They don't get me. They don't understand how good I am. Wah, stick my lip out. It's all everybody else's fault that I didn't progress. Instead of looking at myself and saying, what could I have done to not even give them a choice? Like what could I have done to make myself better, such that they had no option? They had to hire me. They had to have this guy. That's the way Rangers would look at it. Bitch men blame everybody else when something doesn't go their way. Another thing, your offense is everybody else's problem. All right? Somebody says something that you're offended by. First of all, why are you offended if it's not directed at you? Secondly, why are you offended if the words were not intended to offend? How can a mere word, somebody, and let's be real clear. I hope YouTube blocks this. You know how many times I've been called nigger in my life? Enough. Do you realize I'm not offended? And I actually got in a fight with another black person over this years ago because they were telling me I was a liar and an asshole. And I was trying to explain to them the philosophy through which I see the world. And I wasn't faulting them. I was like, if you get offended by that, that's your business. That's fine. I've been called nigger plenty of times in my life. One time I got offended by it. It was when I was very young. But a wise person once taught me that, hey, dude, you are what you answer to. So if I get angry if somebody calls me a nigger, and I have been called that before, and if you're offended by that word, it's time to grow up. Because I'm not using the word to offend you. I'm using it to tell a story. If you're offended by the mere mention of a word, there's a little bit of man bitch in you. I'm just calling it what it is. Right? And you can be offended by that. Believe me, there's what are we up to now? 10 million YouTubers? Plenty of other people who will be nicer to you and use much kinder words that won't offend you. Right? Especially because I'm using it to help you. Right? I'm using it to prove a point, not just to use a bunch of foul language or trying to be funny. But this man taught me that you are what you answer to. So if I'm angry when you call me a name, why am I angry? Unless a part of me believes that you're right and I have to convince you that you're wrong. Because if my mother walked up to me and started, my mother is 5'2", 5'3". If she walked up to me and started criticizing me for how short I am, would I get offended? Of course not. I'm a foot taller than her. I think she'd lost her mind. Why do I not look at it the same way if someone calls me a name? If I'm not the name. Morgan Freeman talked on that years ago. He's like, how do we get rid of this word? He's like, we stop paying attention to it. We stop getting offended every time somebody says it. You take the power away from it. Right? And fill in whatever word is the thing that triggers you. Right? And this is America. You're allowed to be offended. I'm not telling you that, I'm telling you shouldn't be if you want to be happier. But, you know, some people, you know, I have a book on my shelf that I'm sure would offend people because of the guy that wrote it, called it's called The Joy of Hate. And it's like Americans are so bored and so spoiled at this point that we're making shit up to be angry about. And it's like we're finding joy in being outraged about things. And we're also finding significance. If you look at my board, the 6 basic human needs, it's something I coach on in my program. And I cuss way less in my program if that offends you. But sometimes you need to make a point. The 6 basic human needs, the one that's circled on the board back there, is significance. A lot of this outrage culture is people don't feel significant. And it gives them some, like, I'm taking up a cause. Like, I had to tell a woman, dude, I will let you know when I'm offended. Don't tell me what's supposed to offend me as a multi-ethnic person. You don't get to decide because she was correcting me because I used the word Native American, and apparently the lexicon of words we're allowed to use, that's changed. But I am Native American. I was trying to tell her, like, I'll let you know when I'm offended, little white lady. I don't need you to tell me what's supposed to offend me. Ridiculous, man. And so if that's in you, what I'm telling you to do is build up what this Ranger Creed calls a little bit more intestinal fortitude. Don't be so easily hurt and offended, because a lot of times, even if someone's intending, which, by the way, all the times I got called nigger, it wasn't people who weren't trying to offend me. It wasn't like in passing conversation and the word came out. They were attempting to do me harm. But if I let them, then that gives them power over me because they used a word that they're not supposed to use. They used a, how many letters are in that? Six? They used a six-letter word that I've been told all my life is supposed to make me angry. Well, I get to choose whether or not I'm angry. And I'm not going to give my power away to a word or to some ignorant kid in the back of a truck with, a Confederate flag t-shirt on yelling, racial terms at me. I'm not giving that dude my power. That's a loser's way, man. I'm not giving somebody the power over me just because they used a word I'm supposed to not like. Like air coming out of my mouth somehow offends you. All right? So these are the things that we're talking about. Taking personal responsibility. Being more mentally tough. And again, like I said, some of that's genetic. You're only going to be able to take it so far, right? There's people way more mentally tough than me. Like I said, I'm going to explain to you why I'm particularly qualified to have this discussion with you as the time goes on, right? So if you have these traits, I'm not saying you're a full-blown man bitch, but you got a little man bitch in you, and we need, if we want to get to a place where we're ultimately succeeding, we can't allow those things to derail us, right? And am I some stoic sage that never gets offended? Well, I don't get offended because I choose not to be offended, but I can get angry and annoyed just like anybody can, right? But yeah, anyway, let's take some comments, and then we'll get back into the discussion because I got books I want to share with you. I got more things I want to help flesh out this point, and I want to kind of help you with the solution. I started with the opposite. Like it doesn't get less man bitchy than an Army Ranger. All right, now Alyssa says, sounds like the person I try to be. I often don't put up with BS, and I find that to be why it's difficult to find a true life partner. Some days I am thankful to my mother, who is the number one person, who built me, and the other day wish I was normal. My high standards for myself and others are difficult, and need to remind myself it is worth the payoff when I reach my goal. All true, all true. Listen up, dudes. We're talking to a ranger here. I'm telling you, a figurative ranger. I refuse to have an external locus of control. 100%. And that's really at the core of what I mean when I say man bitch. It's like we allow all these external circumstances to control us. That's really at the core where I think Alyssa said it best. The Knowledge Beast says, but you're black yourself. Why would you be offended? But you're black. I'm not sure I understand the question. You said in all caps, but you're black yourself. Why would you be offended? I'm not sure I understand. Rephrase, dude. Sunbeam Child says, I'm a weak person, but I'm not really sure how to stop being that way. I'm weak because I'm not assertive. Wrong. That is absolutely false. The fact that you can come into a public forum and express that you have a feeling of weakness, guess what that is, Sunbeam Child? That is a source, that is evidence of strength. Emotional transparency is evidence of strength. You, unfortunately, have been taught to perceive some of your personality traits as weakness, when indeed they are not. Some people are less assertive than others. And I really don't understand this world we live in where this over focus on being assertive is the answer, right? Like we think everybody has to behave like Steve Jobs. They don't. Some people behave like Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk is very mild-mannered and meek, right? He's not an assertive, get in your face, at least from what I have seen of him. I haven't hung out with him, so I don't know for sure, right? And you may be assertive in other ways that aren't social. All right, so let me stop you there. Being able to admit weakness is evidence of strength. But friends, we're all weak at something, and that's a hint to why I am particularly skilled to ask people if they are a man bitch, right? And Alyssa already knows the answer to that because she's been around me for a while. But so she knows what's coming. Jonesing for Meatloaf says, you have Indian ancestors. Yes, I do. Demonix Realm says, as a mixed race person, I definitely had my fair share of racial struggles growing up too, but I'm trying to move past that. There you go. And remember, friends, There's no demand here for perfection, right? There's no demand here for perfection. There's only a request for progress, for a request for willingness to be better tomorrow than I am today. Not to be better than me, not for me to be better than you, for me to be better than me tomorrow. That's what this whole thing is about. Tomorrow, am I better than I was today? Not am I better than you, not am I better than other people I might compare myself to. Am I better tomorrow? And I can tell you right now, today I am better than I was yesterday. From the books I read, from spending time with you all, right? And going back to Alyssa's comment about high standards making it hard to find a life partner, part of that is the environment, right? Like, if you wanted to, let's say you were a consultant and um, you wanted to work with businesses. Let's use, my boutique agency as an example. We don't work with businesses unless they're making at least $1 million a year, and up to about $20 million a year, right? So if that's who I want to work with, I can't spend all my time like at entrepreneur seminars where people are trying to learn how to be entrepreneurs, because they're people that are just starting off, right? That may be a bad example, but the point is I can't hang out in places where there aren't business owners that are making at least $1 million a year. And that's not all. Like, I have turned down deals in the past from businesses that were making about 4 million, but the reason why I did is their margins were so small in their business that I was like, dude, after you finish paying all your bills and yourself, like, you're living in a 2-bedroom apartment, making 4 million a year, bro. I can't, you're not in a place where I can help you and get the results that you deserve. Not that I wouldn't help you, because you clearly have the money to pay me, but you're going to cut those margins very close. And I would hate for us to only have that small of a budget to work with, and then you not get the results that you deserve. Not the results that, because I guarantee the results, if it didn't work, they'd get their money back, but I wouldn't take their money. I was like, you need to go generate more revenue before this is, and what I did was I agreed to help teach them how to do what they needed to do, right? Versus me doing it for them. Nigel says, I feel to attack racism, we have to attack it from its root and beginnings, which includes calling out dehumanizing language. No, I don't think there's any such thing as dehumanizing language. I think we make that up. We decide what offends us, right? Attacking language is attacking people's free speech. And no, it's the opposite. If you want to stop racism, let the people say the dehumanizing language. Here's why. When they do that, the public's going to see it and they'll be like, that guy's a racist idiot. Let's not allow him to the picnic, right? This culture we live in where we're trying to silence all the idiots. No. And I realize that's kind of hypocritical to something I said on Twitter, but it's because what I said was taken out of context. When I said ban people on your YouTube channels when they're being dumbasses, I was talking about live streams where people will come in and say dumb stuff. You just ban them so you don't have to keep dealing with them because they have problems. You're not going to be able to help them anyway. No, you don't want to call out dehumanize, because who decided, first of all, that the language was dehumanizing? Who decided that? Who decided that if you call me a nigger right now that I'm supposed to be offended? You're taking my power away by saying you should be offended and he shouldn't say that. No, let him say it. Because his dumbass will be on the outside of the village begging for food because no one will let him in here. Let him say it. You want him to say it because you want to know that he's a racist asshole. Because if you silence him, then he can hide it and then he can infiltrate your camp. That's what I think the young culture doesn't understand with trying to censor everybody. They don't get that you're censoring the people you need to let the world hear them talk, because the minute they open their mouth, everyone's going to go, oh, this guy's an idiot. Yeah, don't hire that dude, right? The way you destroy racism is you realize, first and foremost, it is the retarded bastard stepchild of classism. Classism is going nowhere, right? Racism is just the most recent version of it. Because I can tell you right now, once all the races are mixed in 100 years or however long it takes, the next thing we're going to start criticizing and discriminating people against is augmented humanity. People that can afford the robotic legs that let them run 30 miles an hour on the football field. Like, oh, your son has regular legs? I want to hang around with these people. It's just human nature. What we have to do is eradicate fear. That is the problem with racism. We run from, we either run from or attack what we're afraid of. And we are afraid, as human, as a social, tribal culture of animal, we are afraid of our tribe being overtaken by another tribe. So we discriminate. When you understand where discrimination comes from, you realize racism is just a stupid version of classism by uneducated, retarded people. There's no other way to put it. Like, they're dumb. If you are a racist, you are an idiot. And what needs to happen is, one, you need to be educated. Two, we need to help you not be so fearful because you live in 2019. Saber-tooth tigers are no longer chasing you, and there's plenty of resources to go around. And when you realize that, you remove the need for competition. And then you don't have people discriminating against each other. You have them cooperating with one another. Because I can prove it to you. Put a Ku Klux Klan member next to the blackest, well, they don't really hate black so much anymore, next to the most Latino person on the planet. Right? Put them in an open field. Then start dropping bombs on the field. Right? And then tell them over a loudspeaker, the only way you're getting off this field is if you work together. That Ku Klux Klan member and that Latino fella will be the best of friends because now they understand that they have to cooperate in order to survive. And in the modern world, we don't have to do that, so it's very competitive. No, this attacking, dehumanizing language is bullshit that's been propped up by God knows what agenda of hypersensitive people that want to control your thinking. Right? Call me what you want to call me. I'm not going to censor you. I'm going to think you're an idiot if you call me that, right? I may not say it to your face, but you calling me a name or a language, it doesn't actually hurt me. It makes you look like an idiot. And that's the thing that I think this current culture misses. Now, granted, let me be clear because there's context here, right? If you're in a workplace, you can't allow that stuff to go on because it's disruptive, right? You can't let people walk around the office calling me, I've said people have called me nigger. They couldn't walk around the office calling me, hey, nigger. Like, that wouldn't work, right? Because even though I wouldn't be offended by it, I'd be like, this guy's an idiot. Someone else would, and then now we're derailing the work. So yes, there are certain social constructs where where things do need to be censored. I'm not saying we just need to have a free-for-all of people saying what they want. But in the open market, in the world, it's like, this is what I tell people all the time. It's like, if we live next door to each other, you're a Ku Klux Klan member, let's say, right? And I don't know why I pick on these guys, and I'm stereotyping. But you burn crosses. Burn them. Burn all your crosses. As long as those crosses stay on your acreage, we're good. The minute your cross comes on my yard, you're getting shot. And I'm going to call the sheriff before I shoot you. Like, hey, sheriff, he's out back. Yeah, he's setting up the cross in my yard. I just want to let you know he's going to be dead when you get here, or at least shot in the ass. So just FYI, I'm going to neutralize the threat. Right? So that is, you burn them all up. I don't want to stop that dude from burning crosses. Here's why. Because when the rest of the society, who's probably normal, this guy is an outlier. When the rest of the society sees this idiot burning a cross, he's going to have no place in society. He's going to be ostracized. And that's what you want. You don't want him to be able to assimilate and pretend like he's getting along with people when he's a flaming, retarded racist. Right? That's no. You don't want to attack. What you want to do is take the power away from words, not stop people from saying words. And that's what, a lot of it especially with the younger generation, you're coming up in universities that are teaching a lot of that stuff by people who have that agenda. And by the way, I'm not saying I'm right. I think I am. But I just think it's going in a very dangerous direction when we want to have that type of censorship. All right. Euro Lamb says the problem is when you give those racist people attention, it only gives them power. Yes, it is not your problem that they're racist. It's their personal hang-ups. Yeah, and it's funny because my default setting when I don't meet really racist people anymore. Because keep in mind, these people are rare, right? Most people get along with each other if in a social setting. Not all people agree, and certainly we all have different values, and that's what leads to a lot of the political arguing, is different value sets, right? But yeah, you start attacking dehumanizing language, and you're missing the point. You're missing the point that someone is an idiot and needs to be educated or needs to be ostracized. And the quickest way you can get them educated or ostracized is to highlight the fact that they're a flaming idiot, racist, or sexist, or pickinist, right? It doesn't just have to be race. Sexist are dumb too, right? And so what happens is market forces kicks in. You cannot be in this social environment and be a racist or a sexist, right? And I'd rather know that you are so we can ostracize you. And if you want to sign up for retraining and learn how not to be an idiot, then you can come into the village or go out to the outskirts of this figurative town that I'm talking about, right? That's the way you want to do it. Young IGG says, I agree with you, B. I've personally only been offended with the context of non-black using. Like, to me, it's easy to tell if someone is intending to be offensive or using it. Yeah, exactly right. Right. And by the way, I'm not saying that you're wrong to be offended. All I'm saying, and not you, I'm not saying it's wrong for a person to be offended because I have no authority, I have no right to tell a person how to feel. That is wrong. All I'm suggesting to you is if you develop your mind to the point where you don't let it offend you, it puts you in a much stronger place across the board. It's just a better place to be, right? And like I said, I am not demanding perfection. I'm only suggesting and requesting that you make progress, right? Here we go. Great comments, by the way. Man, you guys are awesome, man. Love you guys and ladies. Let's see. Jolly Mage says, about the burning the crosses on Acres analogy. I hear a quote that says, my freedom ends where yours begins and yours ends where mine begins. I could see that. You know, like I don't want to stop. And this is what I think, where I think the younger generation is going wrong. Some of them, the vocal minority, because I think most people kind of lean towards being being logical and rational. It's we want to make being mean to people illegal. It's like, what planet do you live on, right? And it's we want to stop people from being mean, and it's like I don't want to make it illegal for someone to hate me. I want you to have the right to hate me. I want you to have the right to hate my YouTube channel, to hate my content, to come on here and tell me you hate me. That's fair, right? I hate this guy because of what he talks about and I don't agree with him. Sweet. Respect. I respect you for having the courage to say that to my face, right? As long as you don't say it in like a bitchy, passive aggressive way like most of the men that I encounter on YouTube do. But you know what I'm saying? Like I respect it if you don't like me. And I want you to have the right to hate me for whatever reason. Where it becomes a problem is when your hate then causes me some type of injury. That's where we have to draw the line. And that's the analogy. It's burn your cross, burn it up. You know, I don't particularly like that, but it's your yard, it's your wood. Burn it because that's between you and God. It ain't got nothing to do with me. The minute that cross starts getting dug up in my yard, a couple of bullets are going to be coming out off the deck to your location. And you better hope that it's early in the morning and I haven't had my green tea yet and my aim is off, right? Because that's where it's like when your freedoms start to infringe upon mine, that's where we have a problem. But I don't want to stop anybody. It's like this whole idea of hate speech. Like, what the hell is that? Like, I said a thing that somebody's offended by, and that's hate speech. Like, why is this person not allowed to say things that show that he hates me? Now, granted, there are laws against verbal assault. That's different. If someone's in my face, you like that's technically assault. I wouldn't press charges because what is that person gonna learn when the cops show up? Like, you need rehabilitation, not the law. Like, you need to be in a home somewhere for stupid people. But but that's me. I'm not saying everybody has to get there. I'm just saying that that's where I'm at. Let's see. The Noob Five says agreed. Bad faith actors are worse than overt idiots. 100%. I've worked with quite a few politicians in my day, and they will tell you whatever you want to hear that's going to get those votes, right? I'd rather them just come out on stage and be like, I hate all you people. All of you suck, and I think you're horrible. And I would rather them go out in the blade, but they won't. They're incentivized to stay in office. The Knowledge Beast says women are emotional creatures and men are expected to behave like women. If not, they're ostracized even today in school with the so-called ADHD epidemic. Knowledge Beast says men and women are different. And when a man says that, he's labeled sex. So Possibly. I'd say if your last statement got you labeled as a sexist, you're dealing with a very, very small vocal minority of people. Right? Most people would not call you sexist for saying men and women are different. I mean, science agrees with that, right? So if that's the case, science is sexist, I guess, even though science is. Now, where I'll caution you is when you say women are emotional creatures. Humans are emotional creatures. We are more driven, and I can show you this in psychology if we have time, but humans are emotional creatures. We are all driven way more by emotion than we are by logic or rationale. Remember, the biggest part of your brain, right, is that mid and primitive brain. What we call the neocortex or the prefrontal cortex, or what does the logic part of our brain, is a very small part of our brain and has very little control over the decisions. Every decision you make is emotional, right? And I think where we go wrong is we start saying, oh, women are more emotional than men. It's not true. It's just what stirs them up emotionally is where the difference is, right? A man having an issue where he gets offended because his ego was bruised is an emotional response to something. There's nothing about that that's logical. If you were to get shot at right now and you were to take cover, that is an emotional response. It's not logical, right? If you're being shot at, logic, your prefrontal cortex is off, and I can prove this through, military science. There's all kinds of studies that show this, and as a person who's been shot at, I can tell you from experience. I'm not reacting rationally like, perhaps I should take cover. No, I hear a gunshot, I take cover. It's an emotional reaction, right? So we want to be careful about saying, oh, women are emotional and men are. No, we're all emotional, right? The difference is the way we make decisions. Oftentimes, you'll find with men that we will make decisions based on outcomes, circumstances, and the situation. And a lot of times, not always, because I know men who fall into this category. People will make decisions based upon people. Right? That's kind of the difference that we're talking about. But I can show you enough examples of men who do that, um, to where it's not really scientific to say, oh, men do this and women do that. So that's what I'd caution you against. But anyone labeling you sexist for saying men and women are different, they're just that's driven by an agenda of people who are starved for attention, um, and are ultimately, you know, looking for a sense of significance in their life, and they'll attack people who disagree with their value system because it gives us. I mean, trust me, guys. I've watched people get in fights over feeling like their life has meaning. They'll fight over things that really have no bearing, because it gives them a sense of meaning. Alyssa says, biologically, we are different. We are only different in other ways because society has its norms for each of us. Not that simple, says defund you. Not that simple, defund UK. Your ideas align with libertarian doctrine. Okay, that's fair. I say that's probably somewhat stereotypical, um, because I know conservatives who share these. It's funny because we stereotype all of these libertarian or conservative or Democrat. Like conservatives, for example, are supposed to be pro-life, they're supposed to be anti-gay marriage. Most conservatives I know actually don't care. They're like, screw it, let the states figure that out. Yeah, which is typically assigned to a libertarian stance, but I know plenty of conservatives that think that way too. But it's how we label things. I hear a baby crying, trying to figure out what's going on out there. But anyway, so the whole point here, friends, is that I think Alyssa said it best. And the title of this video is kind of me just being silly, but Alyssa said it best, where don't give something outside of yourself control over you. Okay? And some of the things that'll help you with this, and the whole idea here is that we want to create, foster, and nurture the type of thinking that makes you a stronger person and thus helps you to be more successful, right? And not success the way I would define it. It has to be success the way you define it. Otherwise, it's not success, right? I never tell anybody, even the people I coach, I never tell anyone, oh, this is what success is and this is what you need to do, because it's not, I have no right to tell them that. But if you start to adopt what I call this multi-dimensional thinking, and what I'm really trying to murder is this one-dimensional way of thinking that this person said a word, now I'm offended. Or the reason why I don't have what I want in my life is because of all these outside circumstances and all these other people I want to blame for me not taking personal responsibility and doing the things I need to do to get the things that I want in life. That is the epitome of what I'm talking about when I say, are you a man bitch, right? It's, are you bitching about things, right? And blaming everything else, or are you taking ownership for your life and your actions or your inactions, even if some of your actions are driven by things that are outside of your control? Like there's people with issues of mental health. I am one of them, right? So not everything I do is 100% in my control. But I'm not about to sit here and blame my challenges if I'm a jerk to somebody, right? Like certainly I'll have compassion over myself and say, I'm driven by issues in my brain that I'm working out or issues emotionally that I'm working out, but I still need to I still need to progress and treat people well. I still need to treat people with respect, right? And I think Ryan Holiday says it really well, and actually it wasn't Ryan Holiday that says it. He just takes it from Stoic philosophy, which says there's this Stoic maxim that says, "Sustain et abstain," right? Bear and forbear. Acknowledge the pain, but trod onward in your task, right? So I'm not saying that me being called the N word all those times in my life, like I was happy about it, right? That it never hurt my feelings. But in the moment of pain of someone trying to do harm to me, I can decide that I'm not going to allow this to have power over me as a person. I'm not going to let this ruin my day, right? I'm not going to allow whoever the president is to make me feel depressed all day because they do things that I don't like, they say things that I don't believe in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to understand that, you know, I firmly believe that we get the politicians and leaders that we deserve. And if we're narcissistic and we're ignorant, guess what? Our leaders will be too, right? If we're self absorbed, our leaders will be too. In America, I got news for you. We've been self absorbed for a long time, right? I can map that back to the 1960s if you like, but I'm sure it goes back further. And it's we've had this self-absorbed, entitled approach to life that life is just supposed to lay down and give us everything we want, and when it doesn't, we get our lip poked out. And then we start blaming everyone else for the fact that we're hurting. And I told a person this recently on my Facebook page. There was a disagreement over, we talk about, we live in a world where certain words are offensive now, even if you don't intend to offend somebody. And I disagree with it. But what I told him was, listen, man, I have fought for your right to feel the way that you feel, right? And I would continue to fight for your right to feel the way that you feel. And I will merit you for feeling the way you feel or choosing to live your life the way you want to live it, even if I don't necessarily agree with your habits or the life that you've chosen. I will merit you for it and respect and defend your right to live that way. So if we disagree, it doesn't mean I hate you. Doesn't mean I'm trying to offend you or trigger you. It just means we disagree. But disagreeing doesn't mean I'm trying to take anything away from you. It just means we see the world in a different way. And then that conversation ended very pleasantly. And that's what we have to get to, friends, is we got to stop blaming the world and everybody in it for all our problems. Right? Let's see. I wanted to take some of the excerpts from this book that were like, oh, by the way, this book is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It's actually mandatory reading in my coaching program because it's so much about, and then there's another book on my shelf called Extreme Ownership. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, written by Jocko Willink. It's a very important book. It's about taking responsibility for the circumstances in our lives, even the things out of our control, and not trying to control them, just accepting them and saying, okay, this is my responsibility. It's not circumstance. It's not somebody else's fault. You know, you didn't miss out on that promotion because somebody, or maybe it's because they didn't like you. Well, what could you have done to make them like you? Or maybe the solution is, I watched Melissa Mayer do this and was very impressed with her. She got as far as she could get in Google and knew that wasn't going any further. So she signed on with Yahoo to become the CEO. And I was so proud of her for that because she saw the writing on the wall. She knew she deserved more. She knew she deserved to go further. It wasn't going to happen for whatever reason. I wasn't in the meeting, so I have no idea. She decided, okay, if I've gone as far as I can go with this organization, instead of blaming the organization and crapping on the organization, getting on Twitter or Facebook and complaining about the organization, just go to another organization. You know, I told a group of women that um, in a facilitation once upon a time. They were working at a place that was very sexist, violently sexist in some cases, and it was horrible. And I said, you know, ladies, the solution here may be to leave. You know, in a perfect world, yes, we would want to fight for you to be treated properly here. I think that's right and proper. But there's nothing saying that you have to stay here. And in your solution, like the utopia that you're looking for, may require you to start a business. And I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that that's the way it should be. I'm just saying that's the way it is. You're dealing with a place that's entrenched in the way it acts. And there's not enough outside market forces to change this place. It's going to keep getting its money every year. They're going to keep making their money. They're going to keep being supported. It's not going anywhere. So you've got this huge uphill battle to change a culture that doesn't want to change. And in fact, you may be waiting until you are the one running this place before that culture changes. And so my advice to you is to very much just consider that this isn't the place where you belong because they don't share your values. Right? Peter Drucker talks about, you know, you can't be successful in a place that doesn't share your values. And I think that's so true. You know, in ancient philosophy, they talked about how civilizations, a state, should never get above about 10,000 people because once you get above 10,000, you get this heterogeneity. I don't know how to say that word properly. You get this heterogeneous mixture of people where it's impossible for everyone to share similar values, right? Like when you have 300 million people in a country, it's impossible in this nation for everyone to share the same values. There's just too many people. So that's why there's so much fighting. You know, people talk about, oh, Donald Trump divided us. No, his presence just made it so uncomfortable that the division that was already there got exposed. And so now we're starting to see America doesn't, not everybody shares the same values. So where do we go with that? How do you handle that? And these ancient philosophers figured that out thousands of years ago. It's like, dude, just keep it small. Keep it small because the bigger you get it, the harder it is to have similar values and the same values, right? And that's tough. I mean, it's not like we're going to go back to having less than 300 million people, nor am I suggesting that. It's just we have to accept the fact that it's going to be hard to get along because there's going to be people who don't share the same values. And trying to elect an official who's going to make it right for everybody, it's not. We're going to continue to counterbalance for the rest of America's history. I don't think we're ever going to get to a point of shared values and this idea of can't we all just get along? Well, the answer is on certain things, yeah. But in some things, no. There's just going to be strife. And we have to figure out how do we find our own tribes? How do we find the place where we're safe and where what we believe is supported, such that within a nation of 300 million people, we can find our people that support what we support and think what we think, not to the exclusion of other people that disagree with us or to the discrimination of them, but to the place where socially you have a place where what you believe and what you think is valued uh, and okay. I'm looking at, let's see. There's a quote in here that says the difference between the right and the wrong perspective is everything, right? Perspective is everything. He repeats that in the book. Perspective has two definitions: context, a sense of the larger picture of the world, not just what is immediately in front of us. Framing is the other definition. An individual's unique way of looking at the world, a way that interprets its events. So when a person is offended by certain terminology, the frame that they're using, and I shared this with a young woman once upon a time who had a friend who was multi ethnic and got really offended and tired of people asking what he was. He's like, I'm an American. And I was like, well, okay. I said, part of his challenge, I said, are these people like malicious, hateful people that are just trying to give him a hard time? I'm like, no, but they should respect. I said, well, if he told them he was offended by it, they'd probably leave him alone. Well, he shouldn't have to say it. Well, yeah, he should, because here's the deal. If no one is intentionally being malicious to this kid when asking, you know, where do you come from? What is your cultural background is what they were asking. He's getting tired of answering the question because of his frame. He's framing that to mean people are being discriminatory and not accepting him as just an American. And no, what the reality was these are people that genuinely are interested in him and are curious about things that are different about him. And why is that not something to be celebrated instead of angry about? Like, you look at me, you can't tell what race I am. A lot of people assume I'm black. Right? A lot of people assume I might be Middle Eastern. A lot of people assume I might be Latino, right? A lot of people assume I have some type of Asian background, but you don't know. Why would I be offended if you ask me? I'm an American. Don't ask me that. Like, no, this is a person who took time out of their day, who didn't have to give a crap about me, to ask me, hey man, I'm curious about your cultural background. You look very unique. You don't look like a white dude, even though your skin is really fair. You don't just look like a black dude. You know, it's. I'd like to know culturally what made this amalgam of your face. And instead of seeing that as something to be offended by, why can't I celebrate? Be like, yo, there's another human being that's interested in me. And that's what we're talking about here with perspective. And that's really what I'm trying to give you in this call is a sense of perspective that you can't control all the circumstances in your life, but you can control whether or not you react to them like a man bitch. You can control, and let's use a better term because some people may be offended by that. You can control whether or not you react to them like a person who has mental and emotional maturity. The lack thereof is what I'm talking about when I say man bitch. People that lack mental and emotional maturity. And I said before that in most cases, it's not all our fault. And I say our because, friends, the reason why I am qualified to have this conversation with you is because in my lifetime, there have been times along the journey, along the road of my life, that I have been the chief man bitch. So I'm not saying it from a place of judgment. I'm saying it from a place of experience and empathy that I have been many times in my life what I would call a man bitch. I have been what I would consider to be the chief of man bitches. The reason why I'm particularly qualified to talk about it is because I have been it and I've been the opposite. And I can tell you the opposite is way better. So I don't sit here in a place of judgment if you have some of these tendencies or you have some of these behaviors or traits. I have no right to judge you because I am you. I'm no better than you. I'm no smarter than you, right? I I'm sharing the same space with you. And I understand what it's like to feel these feelings and to have these thoughts, right? I remember the first time I got called the N word being offended. I remember how that felt. I also remember how it feels when I got called that and my response was laughter. You know, ancient samurais have a tradition, at least I'm told. I wasn't there. And I didn't read about it in Musashi's book, so I don't know if this is accurate, but I like it, so I'm using it. A samurai never unsheaths his sword when he's facing a lesser enemy. It's a sign of disrespect to the enemy. Why, when someone is, because remember, if someone is criticizing you, if someone is trying to tear you down, they're beneath you. Elon Musk is not on Twitter right now talking about how bad of a person you are. No one above your station in life is trying to tear you down. Anyone trying to tear you down is below your station in life. And now, whether that's financial or that's mental or emotional, if someone's trying to tear you down, it's because they have insecurity and immaturity. Why would you help them? By playing into their foolishness is really what's at hand here. So I need you to understand I am not, I didn't make this video to be judgmental or to tear people down at all. I made this video because I've been what I'm talking about. And sometimes still am. Sometimes I have to work the man bitch out of me. You know, me and my business partner work out a lot, and he'll tell me sometimes I push him a little bit. He's like, man, the bitch in me was, he's like, the bitch in me was starting to talk. I had to tell him to shut up. Um, and that's what I'm getting at, friends, is if we want to see the world the way we want to see it, if we want better politicians, we have to be better citizens, right? If we want to be treated better, we have to treat better. We can't make the excuse, well, I was treated this way, so that's why I treated this way. It doesn't get better that way. Let's take some comments. The Knowledge Bee says, but this day and age, black men are raised by single mothers. So I see a lot of female traits and a lot. No, but you know, there's nothing to be at fault for having feminine energy. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's fine. This conversation has nothing to do with being a male or a female. It has everything to do with not taking personal responsibility, and that is certainly not a female trait at all. In fact, I mean, if you look at most society, if you look at most social structures in society, women are the ones taking the personal responsibility. You just gave me an example. Parenthood, church, mostly women, right? Women are rising to the occasion. I know coaches in my field, what I do, I know other coaches that only market to women because they're tired of working with dudes. Because the dudes that they've been working with are man bitches. You know what I mean? It's just like it gets exhausting having to try to deal with someone's insecurities and emotions and they can't take personal responsibility. Like, I'm offended. Well, that's your problem. You're choosing to be offended. Nobody's trying to offend you. And even if they are trying to offend you, be a stronger human being than them and don't let it offend you. Can't say it any more plain than that. Thank you, Jolly Mage, for the links. Let's see. Peyton does hair. Kelly says, oh my God, this is hilarious. Was literally just having this conversation about how men are pansies these days. Unfortunately. Alyssa says, yep, I've read it. It was one of your best reading assignments I've enjoyed since joining. Yeah, I think so. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I think Ryan did a great job with it. And I even told him so when I talked to him on Twitter once upon a time. Shafan Mustafa says, I agree. Someone asks where you're from, it's usually a compliment. Right. And remember, guys, nothing in life has any meaning but the meaning you give it. So, and the other book I had tonight, I don't have the cover because I have small children that tear things up. But it's Don't Give Up, Don't Give In by Louis Zamperini, or Louis. You may have heard of Unbreakable, the one they made the movie about. That's the more popular book. But I really liked this one. I think I bought this at like Target years ago. I love this. Getting to the top takes natural talent and luck, as well as hard work. That shouldn't discourage you from aspiring. You can't control the first two, but you're in charge of the last, which puts you in position to discover if you have natural talent and see what luck brings. Now, this is a man who lived through a horrible hell of World War II. Right? Aircraft gets shot down. He's in a raft with, I think, two other guys. One of them starves to death. The Japanese, I think it was Japanese, were trying to shoot him from the air because they saw them. He makes it to land. He goes into a Japanese prison. I mean, he lived through hell, and to just see the gratitude and the positivity that this guy had. I mean, I felt like a man bitch after reading this book. I was like, dang, I'm soft. I need to go do some push-ups or lift a car, help people. Like, this book made me really convicted me. Like, I really need to work on gratitude and being thankful for the fact that my life is so amazing and not complaining about the three things that I'd like to change. But everything failed one after another. I may have kept in shape, but I was also drunk every night. I just didn't let others see it, though I'm sure they had their suspicions. But I couldn't hide my distress and disillusion from my family. So he's talking about coming home from the war, and he talked about how a lot of his friends, developed drug addictions and alcohol addictions, trying to cope with the pain. Right, and the name of this chapter, I love the name of this chapter. Uh, it's You Need a Cloud to Have a Silver Lining. I love that. I think that's awesome. Jolly Mage says, if you're interested in B's coaching, you can click on the website above. Also, streams games from time to time. So, not just games on Twitch. What I told people last night, and I'll tell you guys tonight, what we're doing here on YouTube, I'm moving to Twitch. That's part of the reason why I started doing these live streams. It was kind of threefold. It was, I announced that I was quote unquote leaving YouTube, which meant I just wasn't making content for YouTube anymore. Like, these videos are not what I mean by made for YouTube. This video is not made for YouTube. I'm not going to edit it. I'm not going to cut it. I'm going to upload it as it is, and that's the kiss of death on YouTube because they want things that are going to keep people watching. I can tell you right now, everybody that watches this video after the fact is going to skip the first 3 minutes. YouTube does not like that, right? So I just don't care. Like, I am not concerned with YouTube's algorithm. I am not concerned with getting an extra 1,000 views. I am concerned with making great content that the people who it's for are willing to find it and spend the time to watch it. And if you're not willing to spend the time to watch it, you ain't my target audience, right? So we're not making content for YouTube anymore. So that was the first thing I wanted to alert people to, that who didn't see me post about it or see. I did a live stream for about an hour and a half on Twitch explaining it. Two, I'm moving these live streams to Twitch. So I'm not just streaming games. I will be streaming my podcasts, right, and conversations like this when I get an idea. It's just I want to give my YouTube audience enough time to join Twitch and to follow me over there. And honestly, Twitch makes it easier for you because on YouTube, there's all these factors that go into whether or not you know I'm streaming, whether or not it notifies you if you didn't subscribe, the 7 different subscribe things you have to do to get YouTube to notify you. I was shooting videos months ago where people were mad because they're like, I didn't even know you shot these videos. I'm like, yeah, welcome to YouTube. Because I didn't put the word INFP in it, nobody saw it, right? Because YouTube decided, well, he's the INFP guy. Make me. YouTube's like a pimp. It's like, I want you to get out on them streets and make me more of that money. And it's like, I'm not going to do that, right? Unless, the pimp is way easier on you if you make things that millions of people want to watch. I don't, right? I make things that hundreds of thousands of people want to watch, or tens of thousands of people want to watch. So YouTube expects me to be a lot more niche. Not going to do it. Don't care. So I wanted the audience to know, hey, we're moving this to Twitch. Why? Because first of all, Twitch makes it way more discoverable. Twitch actually notifies you by email when I go live. Like, hey, he's on. Let's do it. And overall, it's just, and for me, it's an easier platform to use. Like, Twitch integrates with the software that I use better. Just blah, 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 blah. The bottom line is Twitch is where this is going because I just think I prefer live content versus pre-recorded, edited, jump-cutted content. I prefer going live, and I think Twitch is a better platform for live content. So there's that. And then 3, I wanted to alert everybody that my small group, for the last 4 years, I've been coaching a lot of people privately. Jolly Mage is one of them. There are plenty of people here on the calls who I've coached. And I've been doing live coaching, like actually getting on this microphone, talking to people, not in a comment section, but actually talking to me. And as that comes to a close, I decided I had a curriculum that I wanted to get through. And as it got closer to that, I had to decide, do I want to continue making content or do I want to save these people some money, just kind of finish the curriculum and then package the program and sell it to the public? Because one of the problems the public had is that the program was so expensive. Right, so it's like, not everybody can afford. Not a lot of people who follow me on YouTube can afford that, right? Because the audience that I attract is often like college age to young adult age, and it's people trying to figure it out, trying to make their way in life, and they don't necessarily have anywhere from, depending on when you join, $500 to $2,000 to join the program, right? Um, so I decided, okay, once I stop doing the actual in-person coaching, I'll record all those videos and I'll sell that as a coaching program where you don't get to talk to me, but you get to see me talk to other people. And there's enough people in the program to where you'll be able to see yourself in the individuals that I'm coaching. So I wanted to alert people to the fact that that's coming, that we're going to launch that probably in May or sooner, depends. But we're pre-launching it now, and we're pre-launching it at a really, really crazy discount. So everyone's getting into it really cheaply. When we launch it in May, it's going to be the real price. So the price is going to go up, which means a lot of the people that couldn't get in before also won't be able to get in again because that price point is just a little bit outside of their reach. That said, I'm also aware of the fact that sometimes it's not monetary restraints, it's mental blocks, right? Because I've seen, and I've only seen this once, maybe twice in my coaching career. So it's not something that happens often, but like a lot of the people that I've worked with are people that I also follow on social media. So I remember one person once upon a time was emailing me. He's like, I love everything that you're saying about the program. Looks like it's right up my alley. And this is another kind of this is another thing to be aware of in the man bitch category, right? Is not being honest with yourself, right? Not being, and it has nothing to do with me or my product. It has everything to do with you being honest with yourself, right? And I had a person who was, yo, I love everything. Your program looks amazing. I just don't have the money to join, right? And I think at the time we were giving a discount back then as well. And I said, that's fine, dude. I totally understand what's going on in your life. But then shortly thereafter, I was following this person on another uh, social media platform, and they posted within days. They're like, "Yo, I just bought like $500 worth of it was video games. I don't remember which console it was. This was years ago, but it was they bought like $500 worth of video game stuff. Now, I am not offended or angry that they told me they didn't have money when they did. What concerns me, and this is the coaching point, is the person wasn't being honest with themselves. And this is what I have to tell you guys. You will always, always, always find the money for the things you really, really, really want or need in your life. What he was really telling me wasn't that he didn't have the money. It was that he didn't trust that the program was going to have the desired outcome. Right? But it's easier to say, "Oh, I just can't afford it." Well, then a couple days later, you afforded more money of video game equipment. Now, obviously, I'm making assumptions, right? Maybe the person came into some money. Maybe that was a purchase they made before, and that's why they didn't have the money. But that's not the point. The point of that story is not caring whether or not they bought the program. It's never ever tell yourself that you can't afford something, right? This is going back to last night's call about money. It's you will always, like, if someone puts a gun to your head and says you need to make me $400 by the end of the day, or that's it. You're leaving Earth today. You'll find a way to get $400. Now, I'm not saying that obviously my coaching program is not a gun to the head. My point is just don't delude yourself. Don't tell yourself, "Oh, I can't afford it." Yes, you can. Tell yourself the truth. It's I could afford that if I really thought I needed it, but I don't think I need it. And I don't necessarily trust that the outcomes it's going to get me are what I want those outcomes to be. Because when you're honest with yourself like that, then you set yourself up for success. Then you're being honest. It's like because then it also doesn't create limiting beliefs that you're broke or you don't have money. It's no, you can always get money for something that you need. You'll always, I promise you, your mind, your human brain is very smart. If you found out today that your family was going to be homeless, you'd figure it out. That's the approach I want people to take. Is don't ever say you can't afford something. Say say it's just not a necessity right now, or the thing that I thought I wanted to spend this money on, I don't think it's going to get the results that I want, right? And that's for anything, not just coaching programs. Could be anything, right? So always, always be honest with yourself. But that was the third thing I wanted to let people know, that this coaching program is available now. As we're finishing it up, it's available now at an even steeper discount than the discount that's going to come up. Once we launch it, it's going to go up to the regular price. Because if I don't do that, I just met with my accountant to do my taxes on Sunday. If I don't raise the price, he's probably going to shoot me in the face because I get yelled at. I've been getting yelled at by my accountant since I started since I had an accountant starting back in, was that 2005, I think, was when I first got an accountant with my business that I consulted with. So it was very much, I need to get my act together, otherwise my accountant's going to shoot me in the face. And I always joke about, I had a customer one time yell at me because he thought the price of my program was too cheap. But this is what Jolly is talking about. This is the program right here. And in fact, you can see it. You can actually see the website here where there's the, oh, pro tip for if you guys ever want to sell a product. I can use this as a coaching reference here. Start with a headline that gets attention, obviously. Have your call of action before the end of whatever thing you want to tell them, right? And have testimonials first, and have lots of them. I've got other people shooting testimonials because we're still working on the website too, by the way. Lead with benefits, not features. Notice this, none of this is by accident, friends. This is years of understanding and learning sales, right? Lead with, hey, there's people just like you who are doing this. You should probably do it too. Social proof, right? That's psychology. Then lead with the benefits, not the features. Not that it's 107 billion hours of coaching. Like this right here is 30 hours of coaching. and it says it right here. And then the bonus content, the bonus features, there's 150 bonus videos, and there's more than that because I haven't even like I we neglected our website. There's in the bonuses, there's even more videos that we haven't uploaded yet. Like people in the program have had access to them because they've always had access to them. But there's a bunch of other real heavy duty business videos that aren't on the website yet as part of the. So it'll end up being closer to probably 175 videos when it's all said and done. And that's just the bonus content, right? And these are the features, these are the lessons. But I'm not going to lead with the lessons. I'm going to lead with what is in this for me? What am I getting out of this deal? Lead with that, all right? But that's the program, right? And part of like if you're looking into getting into online sales, for example, there is a crash course in sales that is brought to you. Um, it's me via Jeffrey Gitomer. It's me teaching things that Jeffrey Gitomer teaches straight out of his book, and I don't even mince words about the fact that hey, I'm going to show you some things that a person way smarter and way more successful than me, because I'm a computer scientist. You learn on day one of computer science to always plagiarize. Never ever write a block of code from scratch. All right. So Shafan Mustafa says, out of curiosity, have we all heard of Stoicism? It's been helping me a lot when it comes to not taking insults and harsh, destructive criticism personally, which I've always had trouble with. Yes, if anyone's been around me for any length of time, they've heard me talk about Stoicism. And in fact, it is when people join our company, when I show them the core values of the company, the first value is we are Stoics. And our interpretation of that Stoicism is that we believe in 60/40 in favor of the customer, right? So it's we will work to give more to a customer or to a person we serve than they are paying for. So everyone always gets more than what they pay for. And whether that's like buying a product or it's us giving them our time, it's going back to that Ranger Creed. I mean, this Ranger Creed and a lot of military ideals are rooted in Stoicism, right? This I'm going to give more than what's expected of me. I'm going to do all these things. This is pure Stoicism, right? But that's a good question. Everyone should be familiar with it. Let's see. Jolly Mage says, "Hey B, I would like to also suggest live streams on Facebook as well. It's starting to take off." Yeah, we will probably do the podcast live on Facebook as well as Twitch. When it comes down to it, I will probably stream the podcast on Facebook as well. Um, I have streamed on Facebook in the past. There's no real reason why we haven't done it other than I don't have the setup for it. That's it. The only reason we're not streaming live on Facebook right now is equipment. A lot of my equipment got damaged in the move. We're looking at repurchasing a bunch of equipment as we get funding for the business and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's a great suggestion, and yes, it will be coming. Um, but yeah, and if you're don't think of Twitch. Going back to what Terrence was saying, uh, don't think of Twitch as just me playing video games. Even though I do that, I play games and hang out because my doctor told me I had to. And I figure, well, if I'm gonna play a game, I might as well hang out with people. Maybe they'll ask me a question, I can help them out. Maybe they can help me out. Doesn't matter. Uh, but it's also these live talks aren't going to go away. They're just going to go to a platform where we'll actually draw an audience and be able to benefit you in a way where I don't have to worry about algorithms as much, or worry about, oh, I shot this 3 hour video, and then YouTube's going to ingest it, start the watch time clock over again, and now nobody's going to watch it. And then it's okay, is that going to have an effect on my next videos that I want to launch? It's like I'm not going to think about all that. I'm just going to create the content I want to create, and YouTube can, even though I don't know if you guys heard, YouTube is adding a new metric called quality watch time, which I think is hilarious. Um, so we'll see what that actually looks like when they launch it. But allegedly, that would probably apply to people like me, where it's not going to penalize this because they only watched 25% of the video. But yeah, the video was 3 hours long and nobody left. I imagine some of the variables that'll go into that, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Jolly Mage says the pimp is Terrence Howard, and he gets you to want to be on the corner, and does it by asking and not hitting. If You get the reference. I haven't even seen the movie, but I do get the reference. I just, God help us. Oh man, that's hilarious. All right, so I've run my mouth enough. I got about 20 minutes left before I got to get up out of here. What do you guys got for me? What questions you got for me? Have we effectively stomped out all the man bitchiness in all of us? Any questions? And I realize there's a 30-second delay, so I always wait. But are there any questions you guys for me? And again, I say this in all of my coaching calls with clients. I say it with people. Doesn't matter. Um, you do not have to ask me a question related to this talk. You can ask me anything. I veer away from questions about I'm this INF, I'm this Myers Briggs type. Should I date this type? My answer is going to be take a better personality test and don't be an asshole and make sure they're not an asshole, and then it'll probably work, regardless of what type you are. Um, but fire away with your questions. Jolly says, what is your opinion on using Google AdWords to promote a video that you upload or a trailer to draw traffic to your channel? I don't really have an opinion on it either way. What I would tell you is the action needs to support whatever the outcome is that you are trying to drive. You have to start asking yourself, why do you want to drive more traffic to this very specific video? What's the outcome that you want? Is it because you want to raise awareness for something? Then yeah, sure, run ads because you can get a lot more people to watch it a lot faster than organic traffic, right? Is it that it's the top of a sales funnel and it's going to be, this is the video that gets awareness, and then you have another video that gets engagement, and then you have another video that actually sells the product? Or you just go straight to selling the product to a specific demographic that watches, I don't know, PewDiePie videos? Absolutely. I think Google AdWords can be amazing. The key is you just don't want to overpay for the outcome that you're driving towards. So whether or not, my opinion on Google AdWords is use them if they can help you get to a desired outcome, right? If you are selling something, trying to raise awareness, whatever it is, then AdWords can be very effective, right? And is it within your budget to do it? Is it going to in some way hurt your operation or hurt your business to do that, right? So I think Google AdWords can be great. I just think they have to be tied to a specific outcome that you're driving toward. And I don't know if you know this, but you've asked me that question before. But I'm happy to answer it again because it'll probably help other people that haven't heard that answer before. All right, who else has questions? I am going to check my Facebook feed while you guys ask questions. Let's see. Shafan Mustafa says, have a great night, everyone. You too, man. Have a great one. A lot of people like this Napoleon Hill quote today. That's good. What else we got going? Jolly Mage says, well, I guess I'm getting at to just draw the audience you want without waiting on organic word of mouth draw. Yeah, I mean, certainly if you are good. Now, here's the catch though. Are you good? Do you have your audience well defined? Are you, and this is a budget question. Like, are you sure the audience that you're trying to reach wants what you're creating? Like, if you look at this YouTube channel right here, the audience I was working to attract was not the audience I attracted, and that's not a bad thing. It's just it wasn't optimal. I was looking for a very specific type of person when I started creating this content, and I attracted a very, very different type of people, right? And what it was a lack of self-awareness that the audience that I am working to attract doesn't spend a lot of time on YouTube. It took me a couple of years of well, not years. On this channel, it took a couple months of testing to realize, yeah, my target audience isn't really here. At least not, they're not here to consume the type of content that I'm making on YouTube. They would rather listen to it on a podcast. It's not that they're not here because they do watch some of my other videos that have nothing to do with why most people subscribe to this channel, right? So, um, if you're trying to, what you need to figure out is the audience you're trying to attract actually attracted to the content that you're making? Because I wonder if they're not organically finding it, can you be 100% certain that they're really interested in what it is you're making? And are they interested in you making it? So, where ads can be very effective is you can test that hypothesis. The audience I'm trying to reach, demographics, psychographics, what have you, then it's okay, run some ads to test that theory. And if people start watching and responding to your calls to action, then you got an audience. Then you can start to increase your ad spend to attract them. All right, so yeah, Google AdWords can certainly, or in this case, pre-roll video ads can certainly drive people to your YouTube channel. Right. But again, it just depends on what you're creating, the audience you're creating it for, and whether or not they really, really want what you're making. It took me a couple of months on this channel to understand that okay, the type of content I'm making is attracting a very different audience than the one I'm going after. And what I had to learn was okay, the audience I'm going after is not looking for the type of content that I'm creating. They're past that point. They're looking for these other things, right? And they're looking for them maybe once or twice a month. So if I'm looking for regular traffic from that audience, it's just not going to exist on YouTube, right? So it's better off, okay, that needs to go on a podcast. And then I have to decide, okay, do I want to stay on YouTube and make content for the other people? The answer is kind of. Um, but then it's, YouTube then for, our team, we decided YouTube was going to become more of a repository for content than a place where we're trying to dominate the platform. So hopefully using me as an illustration kind of helps flesh that out for you. Jolly says, and yes, I do remember asking, but just now I'm starting to put ads into my YouTube equations. Yeah, so experiment. Experiment with however much you can afford to experiment with. Alexandra Cruz says, Brian, in all caps. What's up, Alexandra? Young IGG says, you probably answered this before. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. I'm happy to answer it again. But what is the book that changed your life the most? The Bible. All right. Jolly Mage says, cool. That's very similar to my thoughts on it. Thanks, B. Cool, man. Shafan Mustafa says, do you have any tips for freelance programming? I might do that after I get some years of on-site experience. Sure. Get out there and start freelance programming. That's that's my tip. Are you looking for like tactics? Like, should you be on Fiverr or Upwork? Like getting on websites where people can hire you to do freelance programming. If you don't have any experience and you're just trying to learn, I would start with people, family, friends, people that can use your help, where you can do the work for free. Where if you butcher it, it's not, going to kill your reputation. And then use that as, or just start programming your own stuff. That's what I did. Like when we decided to add, Facebook ads, for example, to uh, the consulting part of our media company, it was okay. I'll just do them on me first, and then I'll prove that they work with stuff that I do, and then I'll do it for other people, right? So you can always just start programming for yourself, and once you prove that things can work, you can share it with people. It becomes part of your portfolio. Jolly Mage says, well, repository is better than suppository. Yes, indeed. Well said. All right, last call, y'all. I got to go. What are your questions? No more questions? Going once, going twice. It's crazy how well these footballs hold up. After everything this ball has been through, it still has the sticky, man. All right. Is that it? Nobody else has any questions after that long tirade I gave. Shafan Mustafa says, I see, thanks. And I realize there's like a 30-second delay, so I'm trying to be respectful to the fact that one of you may be vigorously typing a question before I shut things down. Zero from Lucario says, no, I got a question. All right, standing by, Zero. And everyone else start getting your questions in now. Because this Zero is going to be my last question unless I see you guys typing. Alexandra Cruz says, I just got here, missed it. All right, it'll be uploaded in a couple minutes. You can watch it after the fact. It's funny, my business partner, when he learned the title of the video, he's like, you might want to change that, man. You think this going to offend somebody? I'm like, if they get offended, hopefully they'll block me. Because anybody who's offended by it with no context doesn't need to be following me. Zero from Lucario must be going in deep. Reading Dave. That's somebody I haven't seen here. Somebody I haven't seen on one of these in a good while. I'll see him on Sunday, though. Let's see. Not sure how to ask this. With a high hexaco-agreeability trait, how do you mark the line of being open to aiding people and waiting for hours to aid them? I don't know that I understand that question fully. How do I mark the line of being open to aiding people and waiting for hours? So is the heart of your question, you think you're too agreeable and you need to learn how to say no? Is what I'm gathering from that. Captain Chizuria says, I'm late too. Anyway, hugs for all. That's the funny thing about live streams is, people get there when they get there. They can't always break away from what they're doing. Zero from Lucario says, so I've been trying to really focus on my own life right now. But I keep getting pulled into my own family's problems and school problems, and it all keeps dragging me down. How do I focus on myself? How do I focus on myself? The first thing that comes to mind is that you need to set boundaries. You may be having a very similar question to what Dave is talking about. I'm guessing if I'm right about Dave's question. You need to set boundaries. You know, to a, there has to be a cutoff point where someone else's drama doesn't become yours. And I talked about this on Instagram last year, where I said how to deal with negativity, and I said you have to actively filter negativity when you're around toxic, negative people. And I don't mean toxic like in the modern version of the world, like toxic masculinity. Like, there's no such thing. But it's you've got to set boundaries. You've got to be able to say, look, I understand that there's drama or whatever the problems are that's going on, and but the problem with me giving you saying this is I don't know what the problems are. Like when you say family problems, are you guys about to be home? And you don't have to answer any of this because this is your private life. Keep it to yourself. You don't want to answer, but it's hard for me to answer your question because I don't know the nature of the problems. You know what I mean? for example, if your family's about to be homeless and out on the street, yeah, kind of hard to focus on yourself because your family's going through hell. Right? There's no real advice I can give. How can I focus on me? Like it's hard. You're gonna it's gonna be near impossible not to focus on your family's problems. But if it's like family drama because people in your house don't get along and they're getting you to pick sides, you have to tell them, look, both of you go jump off a cliff or go out in the yard and fight. This doesn't have anything to do with me. You have to set those types of boundaries and tell people, no, I'm not getting involved in this nonsense. Like I said, I don't know your family's problems, so it's very hard to give you advice about how do you. I don't know how you focus on you, depending on the how severe the problems are. See, Alexandra Cruz says, same. I almost dropped my career to get a regular job because that's what my ex wanted. That's why he's my ex. Well, that's good. Nice. It was a great choice. Just zone them out and find some balance. Reading Dave says, when do I say no and still be able to help? Maybe it is a cost benefit. Yeah, sure. I mean, you say no when it gets to the point where saying yes is now infringing upon your ability to properly take care of yourself. Because remember, you can't help any, and this is one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn in my life, and I'm still learning. I can't help any of you guys if I'm not right. I can't help anybody if I'm not squared away. So you say no when it's going to infringe upon your ability to properly care for yourself. And then the question about, well, how do and still be able to help? Maybe you're not able to help. And it's okay that you're not able to help because helping it's like, I give this analogy all the time, and you've been on calls with me where I've said this. When you're on a plane and they say, if the cabin depressurizes, oxygen masks will fall from the ceiling. You put the mask on your kids first, right? You know, you put the mask on the guy next to you first, right? The answer is of course not. Put the mask on you first. You're not going to help that guy, and you getting the mask on you may mean you can't help him put his mask on. Oh well, he's got to put his own mask on because you, sir, are dealing with adults that figure it out. Young IGG says, I feel you on that, Zero. I deal with the same thing, wanting to be there for family, friends, or significant other, but you need to focus on yourself. Alyssa says, I always ask myself in learning this. I always ask myself in learning this was needing to ask myself if helping them is harmful to me. Exactly. AKA, are you truly helping or enabling? Well said. Exactly freaking right. If helping someone else is killing you, you're not helping them because you're going to be dead and no longer able to help them anymore, figuratively speaking. Right? Nobody's dying. Zero from Lucario says, yeah, I definitely get what you mean. My mom recently became a single mom, and she's been paranoid that I'm going to betray her and go to my dad. So she keeps taking out her frustrations on me. I don't want to hurt her, but I need space, and it's hard because I love her. Then tell her that. Tell her. Stop being paranoid. Like, well, what's the truth though? I mean, maybe you don't want to say this on the internet, but ask yourself this: do you want to go live with your dad? And first of all, a mother saying you're gonna betray me and go live with your dad, like what? First of all, that's manipulation. Period. Unless your dad was a serial killer, was killing everybody, she can't make you her emotional husband. You're gonna betray me and go to your dad. How is that betrayal? It's your dad, right? That's manipulation. And you need to be straight. Like, and I don't know how crazy your mom's is. I don't know. Maybe she's cool and she's just having a hard time. But for real, that's a red flag to me. Somebody needs to be talking to, like, seriously, and I'm not joking. She probably needs to be seeking counseling. If she's telling her son, you're going to betray me and go live with your dad, that is a red flag of manipulation. And there's some emotional baggage she needs to deal with, right? But you need to evaluate the situation and just be straight with her. Like, yo, stop being paranoid. If your plan is not to leave, say, yo, I'm not leaving. And you need to, for real, leave me alone. You just need to be forthright about that. Reading Dave says, yeah, I gotta find my gas mask. Yes, please keep it on you. Zero says, yeah, it's because he had an affair, so I think her feelings. Yeah, okay, so I lived through this too, right? This happened in my family. Let me be real with you, dog. That manipulation goes deep. Real freaking deep, okay? And it's not fair and it's not right. Your mother needs to go get help, period. She needs to go, and maybe she is. Maybe she's talking to a counselor. And you're not necessarily the one that's to tell her this. She's got to come to that conclusion on her own. But she is not in her right mind if she's telling her child that you're going to betray me and then go live with your dad. That's there's nothing right about that statement at all. And I think it's okay for you to be forthright with her and be like, look, mom, it's not right for you to talk to me this way. To say that somehow me wanting to have a relationship with my father, first of all, is betraying you. First of all, my relationship with my dad has nothing to do with you. And I get that, yes, he betrayed and he hurt you. That is between you and him. It has nothing to do with me. And you need to stop you need to stop projecting your feelings about him on me. Right? That is a fine boundary to draw. Right? Straight up. Now, what you have to evaluate is you know your mom better than me. So you need to figure out how you handle that because you don't need to handle it. That's how I handle it. But I'm also a grown man who's not living with his parents. Right? So there's some, like I don't know if you have a counselor at school that you can talk to, but for you I would talk to somebody too. You know, uh, maybe for real going through something like that is really hard. What would happen if you told your mom, "Hey mom, I'd like to talk to a counselor about this." Maybe you would encourage her to do the same, and then you get help. Like, hey, I'm struggling. I got these issues, and a counselor is going to be able to give you way better advice than I can give you because they can sit with you and learn about you, and they can learn all the details because you're not going to certainly tell me everything on the internet, right? You're going to get way better advice from a professional counselor who can learn all the nuances of your situation and then tell you exactly what to do. So my answer to you is I can't really give you great advice. I can't, right? I can only tell you what I'm hearing. I can tell you what you're going through is manipulation. I can tell you that, and it's not okay. Um, but how you handle it, that's something you really need to talk over with a counselor because you need to talk to someone who can learn about you, learn about your personality, learn about how you handle stress, you know what I mean? Like you're going through your own little brand of hell, and dude, I've been there. All right, the crap is not fun, right? It's not fun. So I feel for you. I didn't do anything. I'm telling you, I did none of those things. I just took a lot of manipulation and pain, right? And it scars you. So my immediate advice to you is to ask your mom, can I please go talk to a counselor about everything that's happening? Because I'm hurting. And then they can walk you through how to set boundaries way better than I can. Alexandra Cruz says therapy helps. I've seen it. I'm not sure if I should go or not because I don't trust therapists. Yeah, I mean, you can get. I've had bad ones. I've seen a number of therapists. I'm seeing one. I see one regularly now. Um, it's funny. A lot of professional athletes do too. A lot of the best athletes had regular therapy, which is interesting because you'd think people that are at the top of their game would have it the least, but they're smart enough to realize, oh, this stuff actually really helps. The key is just getting a therapist that's good, and I've had bad ones too, so I get it. Alyssa says, be as picky with your therapist as you are with those you want in other parts of your life. I have yet to meet a therapist that is not 100% on your side. I've met many in my work. Yeah, the list is 100% right. I had to shop around until I found a therapist. You know what made me stick with my therapist is when they told me, how much, you know, they were unsure of how much they could actually help me. And I was like, good. You're honest, you're forthright and transparent. This is going to work just fine. Right? The fact, like, they made it clear up front, I'm not just trying to get your money. I want to make sure I actually help you. Good. Let's do this. Reading Dave says sometimes getting your own help is leadership for others getting help too. Yep. That's why I shared with you guys my, therapy and all the things that I'm going through because I wanted you to not feel self conscious if you needed it. Zero says, thanks, Mr. Chambers. Please just call me B or Brian. Mr. Chambers sounds weird. I appreciate the advice. Didn't ever think I'd actually be able to talk to you. I'm gonna work on drawing boundaries and being honest with her. Plus, your series on the way of walking alone helps. Oh, cool! I didn't know you were watching that. That's a little hidden gem that a lot of people haven't gone through because people are too busy and Game of Thrones is on. But if you're a freaking warrior, if you're in school and you're going through that, dude, you have a bright freaking future. I can tell you that right now. Captain Chizuria says golden advice. Just got here for the end, and this is useful already. I'm glad to hear that, Cheese. Listen, friends, been a pleasure. I got to go eat something. I got to go help my wife. I love you all dearly. I pray nothing I actually said tonight offended anybody. Certainly wasn't my intent. Just wanted to get your attention and share some things with you that I think will be beneficial to your life. If you disagree with me, you don't like what I said, I welcome it. I welcome critique as well. Um, I'm open to it. But hopefully, you guys got something good out of this idea that we have to take ownership of our lives. We have to take ownership of our circumstances. We have to take the power back and not give it away to politicians of the world or people that offend us. We have to take personal responsibility, accountability, and ownership for the things that are happening in our lives, develop perspective, have a proper, empowering frame for the way we look at life if we want to win. And that is where, friends, I will leave you. Interested in coaching, check the links. I think everybody would benefit from it. I've been saying, it's throughout the course of my lifetime, I'd like to take 1 million people through it just because I think it can be that helpful. I tell people all the time, I'm not telling you anything. I'm not saying things that you can't read in all the books I've read, but it's the working with folks that's the most valuable part. So definitely consider that. See you Sunday, Alyssa. Can't wait. Really looking forward to meeting with you guys. Yeah, and by the way, I've been secretly allowing a couple of the people that have been joining the program early. They're going to be able to come on a call with me, even though that wasn't originally part of the deal. But I'm crazy. We're having a meeting Sunday. I'm only going to let so many people in because I have to respect the people that have, you know, who have sweat and bled and paid to be in that space. But we're letting a handful of people in. Um, but yeah, so great time to take advantage of that. I love you all much. Always remember that. We are stronger than I. I will see all of you soon. Oh, don't forget, follow me on Twitch because that's where these streams are going to be in the future. Love you guys. Peace.